See, dreams ignite inspiration in your heart. And inspiration is different than motivation, as most of us know. Inspiration is inspire, in spirit. Inspire means in spirit. So if you could ignite your spirit, and all of a sudden now it's like you're ignited by a dream to feel a certain way or get out of pain, physically or mental pain.
Welcome to the Spartan DEKA Series on Spartan Up with Jarod Cogswell, Director of Sport, and Yancy, Director of Programming.
What's up, Spartans? Welcome to the DEKA Series on the Spartan Up Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jarod Cogswell, without my brother, Yancy, who is, he's traveling today. But here's the deal. I have a very, very special guest today on our final episode called Winning the Mind Game.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com.
Okay, this is part 4, and I can't think of a better person to have on this show representing this series than Winning the Mind Game. And, you know, even though we don't have Yancy here, I can guarantee you that when you get a world-class performance coach, a life transformer, an internationally recognized keynote speaker, I mean, I'm talking about one of the best motivators out in the game. He's also the Jack LaLanne Award winner. He's been a trainer to not just professional athletes, but Hall of Famers, Olympic athletes, Super Bowl champions. I mean, to me, this guy is the fitness industry legend. And I'm lucky enough to call him my own personal mentor and really, really good friend. You know, when you put all those things together, I think you're going to be okay, even if we got to make up for the absence of Yancy Culp. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you the mind right maniac himself, Todd Durkin.
Dang, Jarod, what an intro. Thanks so much for that, brother. That was great.
We're getting the hoodie on for this one, brother.
Oh, the gray hoodie's on. Mandatory to get your mind right. You got to have a gray hoodie. Flip the hood up, and that'll help you get your mind right, no doubt.
Right here. That's the pose.
Get it right, get
there.
It right, get your mind right.
Hey, listen, man. You've been on the show before, right when we got started, and I am really excited to have you on this one because it just seems so perfect to cap out this 4-part series called Winning the Mind Game. And right now, again, I want to thank you for being on, because you're on vacation, right?
Jarod, I'm at the Jersey Shore right now. I mean, I am on a 7-day vacay with the family. Nothing better than coming home where I grew up to the Jersey Shore, and we're having an absolute blast. The family's down the beach. I came home real quick to do the podcast, and I'll head back up there and do some body surfing when I'm done.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. And hey, we're going to see you in Jersey on September 17th at DEKA Fit. It's going to be the first time we've ever had a keynote speaker come and speak to a group of fitness professionals, gym owners, and I know you're going to be getting a lot of minds right, especially before the big competition there in Jersey. But we'll talk more about that later. But you guys, what I want you to understand about TD, if you haven't had an opportunity to read his books or be around his energy and his presence, he's impacted so many people around the globe. And he is one of the most disciplined and authentic human souls I have ever met. I mean, this guy walks his talk. And he actually has a book on mindset called Get Your Mind Right. And that is that phrase, when I hear get your mind right, you hear it a lot these days, I just instantly think about TD. And in fact, as I was prepping for today's podcast, okay, I went to go grab my Get Your Mind Right book, right? And I keep it by my bedstand just in case my head's not right. And I didn't see it there. And I was out this weekend. I was backpacking, having a good time in the mountains. So I asked my wife, I said, baby, where's my TD book? Where's the Get Your Mind Right book? I'm trying to prepare for the podcast. And she goes, oh, I gave that to Ziggy's son. And Ziggy's son, he was just drafted in the 4th round by the Colorado Rockies. So, you know what? He's going to be getting his mind right, and he's probably going to be playing in the big leagues in the next couple years. So we'll keep an eye out on him. But TD, in the first 3 episodes, just to get you up to speed on this, you know, the first episode, we were with Dr. Laura Pence. And she's a doctor of psychology, and she helps out Spartan a lot. Especially when we're talking about resiliency and all these other things to help get our own minds right. But we were talking a lot about discipline and you know, trying to stay off that mental roller coaster that we go on. And then we also had somebody talk about overall well-being. We had another doctor come on about that. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about working and living like an athlete. You know a little bit about that book. So we talked a little bit about the book. But, you know, I think the cool thing about this, capping it off with you are so intertwined with not just the world of fitness, but your goal is to impact 100 million lives out there, right? And that's our goal as well at Spartan. What are you seeing out there when it comes to mental and emotional, say, conditioning?
Yeah. Thanks, Jarod. Thanks for all of that. I really do appreciate it. I'm honored to be here always. We're in an interesting time right now. I think there's a lot of people who are burnt out. Energy is waned. People are feeling empty, sometimes lost. And I'm always like, get your mind right, get your mind right. But when you think about get your mind right, what I'm intrigued at, especially now more than ever before, the last year or so, is how do you get your mind right when your mind clearly isn't right? If you're down in a hole and it's dark and you know, even me, I'm like snapping my band, I got my hoodie on, I'm like, get your mind right. I'm self-talking, get your mind right, get your mind right. But when your mind's not right, how do you continue to battle? I mean, that's the key. What I'm seeing right now is there's a lot of people who are hurting. And if that's you listening in today, number one, thank you for listening in. I know Jarod and Yancy do an amazing job with this podcast. I hope in the time that we have today that maybe I say something or Jarod says something that will fuel your fire. Because as Jarod said, right now I'm on vacation. And Jarod, one of the ways that you can get your mind right is stepping away and getting some what I call mellow yellow time. Maybe it's a long weekend, maybe it's 5 days, maybe it's a week or more. But I do find that with burnout so high right now, you need to get away and step away from the regular routine of what you're always doing, because most people are working really hard right now, but it always doesn't feel like you're working because you're at home and you're on Zooms and everything else. You're out of your routine, especially in the summertime. So I'm finding that even in the last week alone here on vacay, I mean, I'm feeling so reinvigorated and rejuvenated from simply getting away and not working for a week has been great for my own soul as well.
Yeah, and you know, I get to see some of the social media posts out there, and if you haven't followed Todd, you got to follow him because he'll help get your mind right every single day. But you know what I love about your post too is just there's so much family time out there, and it's so authentic. You know, it's like you're not just posting for the sponsor, you're posting because you're sharing your life with other people. And again, that's what I love about you, Todd, is that the authenticity and walking that talk. Your book, okay, now you've written, I think, 3 books, and it's funny because I remember the Impact Body Plan, and, you know, and I don't know if you remember this, but you and I, way back when, we were both speaking at a fitness convention. Todd's speaking in one room right next to the room I'm speaking in, and I'm like, dang, man, nobody's going to be showing up for my seminar because Todd Durkin's over there. And I'm like, and I had a few minutes to waste before a few people came into my room, and I went and introduced myself to Todd, and I said, hey, TD, my name's Jarod. I said, hey, I'm speaking in the room right next to you, but I'd rather be in here watching you and listening to you. And man, it's been I don't know 10 plus years since that moment, but you've done some remarkable things just in the time that I've gotten to become friends with you and learn from you. But Get Your Mind Right, it came out at a really interesting time, right? Like right in the threshold of the pandemic. But I know for a guy like me, man, it was just perfect. Like this was something that was lighting up my soul from the darkness. Tell us, if you can, just a few of what was the motivation behind it, and some of the lessons you can share from it.
Let me give you the backstory leading up to it, Jarod, because you were just talking about the 3 books. 2010, Drew Brees had just won the Super Bowl, won the MVP, and I always had the desire to write a book. So Men's Health and Rodale got a deal to write a book. I had to write this first book in 10 weeks. I'm like, I can't do it in 10 weeks. It's my summer. It's when I train all the athletes. I write the book in 10 weeks. It's called The Impact Body Plan. And that was a 10-week plan primarily on physical conditioning, a 10-week workout plan. So we get to that book, and then in 2016, I write the Wow book, which is really a culmination of a lot of short stories about life and wisdom. It's 52 short stories to inspire your soul. But the one thing I always felt in working with athletes for 20 plus years, especially elite athletes, was so much of success was between the ears. And there are a few books out on that, but I wanted to write my own unique story on Get Your Mind Right. So I had a partial knee replacement in 2018, and it was sitting there on my lazy boy recliner that I had the idea that I'm going to write this book. And I don't know about you, Jarod, but sometimes when you're in the pits of hell and it's a dark time, I don't know why, but sometimes my best work comes out when it's dark and when I'm battling myself, when the back's against the wall and it's not a good time. So I'm like, man, you're always up. No, I'm not always up. Sometimes I got my back against the wall, and that's when I do some of my most prolific work. It was in that time after my surgery, I wrote Get Your Mind Right, 2018, 2019. And because I had a publisher on this book, there was good news and bad news. I wanted that book to come out in January 2020. New year, people are starting out strong. Let's rock and roll. Let's go. And the publisher said, no, we're going to actually publish it in March 2020. I'm like, March, we're going to lose sales. It's not going to be good. People want to turn over a new leaf in January. Well, then the pandemic hit. And in March 2020, they pushed it back to, they told me, June 2nd, 2020. Well, little did I know that June 2nd, 2020 may have been the epicenter of the darkness of the entire pandemic. That was just a week after the George Floyd killing in Minnesota. There was a lot of social unrest, and it was a very, very challenging time. And here comes my book called Get Your Mind Right. So I'm like, one part was like, this is the perfect time for the book called Get Your Mind Right, because the world needs some positivity right now. And I went on this rant, 91 straight days of going live at 12 noon, called the Good News Network. I was going to infiltrate the world with positivity and inspiration, and motivation. People were tuning in from all over the place. But I got to tell you, Jarod, when this book came out, I was really excited, but at the same time, I was absolutely shot. Energetically, I was shot because I had been trying to save the world for already at that time 3-4 months, and I was hoping the book would get those wheels and that, because it was about to start what I was calling a crusade. We're going to start a crusade to help people get their minds right, and fortunately, the book has done very well since that time. But as I always say, for anyone who writes a book is like a baby. It's not a 1-week thing or a 1-month thing, and I had to remind myself, like, hey, listen, we're in one of the world's darkest times right now. This book is going to impact thousands, if not more, lives. And sure enough, a little over a year later now, Get Your Mind Right is doing really well. It's an audio book. It's a print version book, obviously. And I'm real proud of the work because it's changed a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in there's just so many great reminders, and I call them TD-isms. There's a lot of those phrases that I've heard from you, and you, again, living them, speaking them, and teaching them, coaching them.
Yeah.
And again, I think the other thing that is, like, when you walk the talk, when you actually, a lot of people are out there maybe not portraying their true identity, and you're one of those guys that actually do. I have always admired TD, your discipline and your internal motivation, but I also know you are an absolute ritual guy. What are some of your daily rituals? Because man, every Sunday I get the email from TD. I mean, it's like clockwork.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I wish I was more consistent like that. What are some of your daily rituals that keep you motivated, keep you disciplined, keep your mind right?
Well, Jarod, in my book, I actually share my entire routine because I think routine is important. If you want to see the success of someone, look at their daily routine. Because when you have the discipline to do your daily routine, if you have a winning routine, then you're more likely to succeed. Listen, I'm a football guy. I love sports. I love football. I played my entire life. I've coached these athletes for a long time. And I always look at it like you don't go into a game without a plan. You got to have a plan. And those athletes who are more likely to do the training, the lifting, the eating, the recovery, all aspects of high performance, you're more likely to be successful. So in the last decade, I've established some routines that work for me. And these are my routines. These aren't routines that may work for everyone. I've just found the rhythm that I call it WLWB, when life works best. When life works best, what are you doing? And if you can write down, I have 13 rules, but if you can write down 3, 5, 7 rules for your life, like do these things. Like for me, when I first get up in the morning, I don't turn on my phone for the first hour till my morning routine is done. Jarod, I got to tell you, that's hard to do. Can I get a name? Anyone listening in right now? Like, I mean, the phone is like a drug, right? And you want to turn your phone on, you want to check your Instagram and your texts and your emails, everything else. But I find that if I just go down into my home office, in a little sanctuary, I get my quiet time, I open up my devotional, I get my journal, and I spend 15, 20 minutes in quiet time, and then I take the pup out for a walk, and I get my workout in, and before I know it, it's 6:30 in the morning, I'm done with my routine. Then I can have my healthy breakfast and do those types of things. Another rule on that is I only have 2 alcoholic beverages per month. 2 beers a month is my rule. I just find that if I'm drinking beer or alcohol, I'm not my best. And I want to be my best, and I want to set myself up for success. I want to be a good writer, speaker, leader, and everything else. So that's just a rule of mine. I went to Canada once, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, you mean 2 beers a night? I'm like, no, a month. It worked for me. You take your own rules. Another big one too, Jarod, and this was dialed in over the pandemic, is I call it the 3-2-1 routine at night. See, people are always like, hey, Todd, what's your morning routine like? What's your morning routine? And I have a morning routine. But the thing that was killing me during the pandemic was my nighttime routine was shot because I was doing so much work at night and kids would go to sleep and I was typing and writing till 11, 12 o'clock and I was so exhausted I'd fall into bed and I would sleep like garbage and then I couldn't do my morning routine because I was so tired. So I established my routine at night. 3 hours before bed, you go to, you eat your last meal 3 hours before bed. 2 hours before you go to sleep, you shut off your work. So if you want to go to bed at, let's say 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you're shutting down work. And the last hour, this is really extreme personal care. So I've got like a Juve wall, red light therapy wall. I do reading. I like reading just actual books. I'm not a Kindle guy. I turn off all the blue light. So I read, I do some stretching, I do some quiet time at night and get time with my wife. So that last hour is really crucial because if I'm on my phone all the time, just checking out the scores and checking out the DMs again and everything else, and I'm working, what's on my mind? Work. And then I can't sleep and get into the REM sleep for the recovery. So the 3-2-1 technique has been very valuable for me. And like you said, Jarod, the discipline to do it, I'm not always perfect. By all means, I am not. But I do have some good discipline to most days of the week follow my routine.
Yeah, those rituals are so important. And I agree with you. It's like the way you start the day really dictates the day, right?
Oh.
And then the way you end the day, I mean, we know the importance of recovery, sleep, especially with the data that we have now. I will admit this, though, man. I woke up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. this morning, and I'm like, I got the TD podcast. I'm going to get up now and start preparing and open up my Get Your Mind Right book that wasn't there. So anyway, but hey, listen.
Hey, I would say
either
you dominate the day or the day dominates you. Either you dominate the day or the day dominates you. So if you can't, you got to beat the sun up. Mandatory rule, beat the sun up. Got to beat the sun up. And if you ain't beating the sun up, then go to bed earlier and get some good sleep and then beat the sun up, because there's nothing better. The other day I was down here at the shore and I watched the sunrise over the East Coast. Normally I'm on the West Coast in San Diego, and it was beautiful to catch a sunrise. Quiet, serene, peaceful. And people are like, hey, do you always have crazy energy? Nope. No, I don't always. When you get the yin time, the quiet time, that allows to fuel the inside. And when you fuel the inside, that stirs the spirit, so that when you're going to unleash that energy, then it's purely coming from your heart and soul.
We'll be right back to this interview, but first a message from today's sponsor, Durolane. You know that knee pain can really slow you down. Sometimes that knee pain is due to osteoarthritis, a disease that affects some 14 million Americans. Learn about osteoarthritis knee pain and how to alleviate it at oakneepainrelief.com. You'll find information there about non-surgical, non-opioid treatments for osteoarthritis knee pain that may help delay the need for knee surgery. One treatment you'll find there is Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months of relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. It's indicated for the treatment of mild to moderate osteoarthritis knee pain when conservative treatments have not worked. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. Full prescribing information is at Durolane.com. Spartans say no to limits. You can learn more at oakneepainrelief.com. That's oakneepainrelief.com. All right, back to the interview.
Speaking of heart, admittedly, and just to let the listeners know the impact that Todd Durkin's had on my life, for many years I was in a leadership role with a very profitable company. And what TD taught me was how to lead from the heart. And this guy, TD, is all heart and soul, like there's, again, I keep using that word authenticity, but it was a game changer for me when I was able to be more vulnerable and be who I really was on the inside to the people that I connected with on the outside. So I thank you for that, Todd. Now, you've also, not only do you work with fit pros and corporate executives all over the world, but you also work with some of the most amazing athletes in the world. Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. Yep, if you watch his speech, he's giving acceptance to Todd Durkin for all that training and time that Todd committed to him to becoming the Hall of Fame athlete that he was. The other one, of course, Drew Brees. We know that he's an instant shoe-in for the Hall of Fame. My question to you, TD, is this. What is the mindset of not just that professional athlete, because you know this as a professional athlete yourself, like you'd lose one step, you could be possibly out of a job, right? Mm-hmm. But what's the mindset of a Hall of Famer and, say a Super Bowl champion?
It's a great question. With LaDainian, with Drew, with the Darren Sproles, with the Steven Strasburg, these types of guys that are at or near the top of their game, I would say that it's the insatiable appetite to be the best in the world at what they do. And when I say that, they're really after being the best they can be. What do I mean by that? LaDainian Tomlinson told me in 2003 when I first started working with him, he's like, TD, I want to be the best in the world to ever play the game. I'm like, whoa, you're talking Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders. He's like, I want to be the best to ever play the game. I said, great. As long as you're willing to do everything I say, then I think you're going to be pretty darn good. Well, LaDainian was a guy that actually trained so hard. I had to actually slow him down. He built a hill in his backyard. So when he was done, he would go run the hills. I'm like, am I not working you hard enough? He's like, no, I always need to do more. It's the mindset. It's the mindset of, I want to be the best that I can possibly be. Drew Brees, here's a guy who's 6 foot barely, 205 pounds, and he is 1-2 in most categories in quarterback, and Tom Brady will this year obviously pass all of those records, or many of them. But Drew, when you talk about discipline and sacrifice and preparation, that man prepared for 20 years. I had him 18 of the 20 years he was in the league. I've never seen a guy prepare at all levels, not just physically. I'm talking watching tape, the way he treated his diet, his recovery, what he did off the field, how he gave back to society. Because he'd be like, TD, I want to be the best in the league this year. That's what drives me. I want to be the best. I want to have a 70% pass completion rate. I want to throw X amount of TDs, this amount of interceptions, where the ratio would be exceptional. And that's what drove him to be great. Sproulsy, same way, 5'6", 190 pounds, who will be most likely a Hall of Famer in 4 years from now. Same thing, the little engine that could. The common denominator, Jarod, with all of these guys and gals, iron sharpens iron. They always wanted to be around other people who were better or as good as them, and they love training with them. They love hanging with them and picking that mindset, because it's like you and me, Jarod, or it's like the DEKA Fit community. It's like the Spartan community. Like, it's a community, and it's a mindset. It's a mindset to, well, how am I gonna get through those obstacles? Well, if she did it, I can do it. If he did it, I can do that. And it's that ability to lift everyone up, right? Rising tides lifts all ships. And I just believe that what I've seen with the best athletes and executives in the world is they have the desire, almost obsession, to be great at what they do.
Yeah, man. We talked about that quite a bit in our other series, A Life Fueled by Fitness, is like, you got to find your tribe. You know, we talk about this all the time, right? You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yep.
And man, you always have a lot of great athletes surrounding themselves with like minds, and obviously having somebody like you leading them. What do you think from a coaching perspective? You know, and this is, I want you to brag a little bit about yourself. Maybe not brag about it, but just share, like, what is the difference? Like, what attracts athletes at that level to come to Todd Durkin versus another coach?
I wouldn't say this is bragging. This is just what one of my clients said to me. His name is Pastor David Jeremiah. He's not an athlete. He's an 80-year-old man who just happens to be one of the most popular evangelical pastors on the planet. And he said this to me once, and I never thought about it this way, but it's true. He said, you know, Todd, he said, you trained me from the inside out. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I call him Dr. J. I'm like, what do you mean by that, Doc? He's like, because whenever I leave here, I feel like my spirit's been touched. And I thought about that, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've had success in my career as a coach and trainer and as a leader, is when you talk about heart-centered, I guess the bottom line is the reason why I got in this business, I wanted to help people. I really wanted to change people's lives, and whether it be through fitness or sport or through the mindset to get people better, I love helping people. I love when LaDainian and I would do his body work and stretching along with all this training, would say, man, TD, you're such a big part of my success. Or Drew, would bring my family on vacay with them, and we became very close friends because he respected and appreciated the care and work that I did. I think the bottom line is any great coach, any great trainer, any great executive or leader, has the ability to touch people. And when Pastor Jay said, Todd, you train people from the inside out, I was like, that's well put, because I've always looked at this. If we were training and we're 3 feet apart, I want an energy field always between us that you feel positive light and energy infiltrating into your soul. That's how I always thought and prayed. Like, I want this radiant light to emanate into that person. So when they're done, they did push-ups and squats and pull-ups and everything else that everyone else does. But there's an energy where they're like, feel invincible or euphoric, or they feel positive again, or they feel like they can dream again because there was some belief instilled in that man or woman or boy or girl because of something that you've said. And I think that's what great coaches do. I think they have the ability to impart some belief, optimism, positivity, energy into them. But Pastor Jay said it best: you train people from the inside out. And I think that's one of the reasons why athletes have always come back year after year have come back, is because I treat them like I would treat the 70-year-old grandma coming in who just wants to play tennis. There's nothing different between her and a pro athlete. We're all human beings trying to get better. So if you're banged up, you got a bad knee, a bad back, bad neck, shoulder, it's like I got to figure out a way to train around this and get through the event or the challenge or the performance, and we're going to get it done. And when you put yourself around other trainers, coaches, leaders, and believers that will help you with that, all of a sudden your game is lifted up as well.
Yeah. Hey, and for the listeners out there, if you're ever in the San Diego area, you got to go to Todd's gym. It's called Fitness Quest 10. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be lit up, energized, and fueled, like you want your heart filled up, and you want to get an amazing workout, you want to do some arm farm with the chains, you go to Fitness Quest 10. I tell you what, it's always just so magical there to get a workout. Like instead of fearing the workout, you want to get in the workout, and every single coach, every single person you come across there makes you feel like family. Like every time I walk into FQ10, I'm just like, it's like I live there, I work there, I train there, and you know what else you're going to get there is you're going to get a lot of Rocky music too. So
absolutely, so it's imperative.
Yeah, always going to get the Rocky. So I want to ask you maybe one more technical question, because this is something that there's a roller coaster ride there with fitness and just on the mental awareness side. We talk about in the fitness profession, motivation versus discipline, right? And you've shared some of your tips on discipline. How do we can get somebody motivated, but it could be temporary, right? Mm-hmm. But the idea is we want people to adhere to, whether that's their exercise or training program, but we also then want them to continue to believe in themselves even when they get knocked off of that platform, right? And I'm a big believer, like on that note, failure is a great lesson for greatness. That's what's going to escalate your game. But when it comes to discipline, what do you think some of the key ingredients are to developing that discipline, some of those rituals that you were talking about earlier?
Well, when it comes to discipline, I think you have to realize, why are you doing this? Although you and I may enjoy exercise or training or a DEKA Fit challenge or a Spartan race, like, why are we doing this? See, in one of my chapters, it's called Dream Big and Attack Your Fears. Dream big and attack your fears. It comes back to the whole reverse engineering your life process, which I love to do. It's like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to be remembered for? So if you fast forward, would it be 25 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, you're like, hey, what do I want to accomplish with my life? What are my dreams? See, dreams ignite inspiration in your heart. And inspiration is different than motivation, as most of us know. Inspiration is inspire, in spirit. Inspire means in spirit. So if you could ignite your spirit, and all of a sudden now it's like you're ignited by a dream to feel a certain way or get out of pain, physically or mental pain. I've got to go through hell potentially. I've got to see these set of doctors, or I've got to get on this exercise regimen. I've got to get whatever it is, because it could require certain interventions to get over that physical pain or that addiction or whatever may be going on. It's like, I got to get this done, and you're willing to run through that fear or whatever it is to get to the other side where the light is at. So when you think about discipline, you got to know where you want to go, and you know the end game of what you want to experience. And then when you keep reminding yourself, hey, I want to achieve a certain amount of financial success or business success, or you want to start a family or buy a house, or you want to get a gym or whatever it may be, you got to know where you're going. And then at the end of the day, you either get butt glue, you sit your booty down and you get stuff done, or you live in a world of distraction and you're constantly getting distracted and get nothing done. That comes to the reverse engineering. When you say I'm disciplined, Jarod, I've established a format where I know where I want to go many years from now. Now we know we're going to have curveballs and pandemics and all this other stuff that will throw us monkey wrenches. But to the point where every year. I know what my goals are every 90 days, every 30 days, and every week, as you know, because I share them with you, my W legs, my wins from the last week, my losses from the last week, my aha moments from the past week, and the big 5 goals that I'm going to achieve this week to make it a winning week. Because if you win the day, you win the week. If you win the week, you win the months. If you win the months, you win the year. It all comes down to is winning days. Winning days, winning days. I'm always like, chip away, win the day, win the day, win the day. I got to win more days than I lose. And if I can win 4 or 5 days a week, I'm doing pretty good, because we're going to have a winning week. Winning weeks lead to winning months, winning quarters, winning years. This is a good thing.
Well, Todd also has a really amazing mastermind, and I've learned some of those tools. We every year, the beginning of the year, it's the annual roadmap, and just like he said, then we break it down into little chunks, little goals that we know we can reach. We got to stretch for them, but we reach for them. We break them down 90 days, 30 days, a week, and even to the day. So those tools really do work.
Hey,
Now,
Jarod,
listen.
Jared,
Go ahead.
can I say something real quick? Because there's someone listening right now where they're like, this sounds all great, but you don't understand how bad I'm off. Listen, exercise and movement is a key ingredient to success at any level. You don't have to be a pro athlete or an athlete to be moving. And I talk about this, movement is medicine and motion's lotion and movement is medicine. The bottom line is, regardless of what we do for a living, exercise and training is mandatory. You must treat yourself like you are a pro athlete. People think it's really easy for pro athletes to train all the time. Like they wake up jumping out of bed like, I can't wait to train. And you're like, well, yeah, but they make millions of dollars. Let me let you in on a lot of insight. There's not a lot separating many of these pro athletes from the same struggles that you and I may have. Many of them have family challenges or issues. Some of them have mental issues, or they're struggling with self-confidence or self-esteem. Yes, pro athletes do that. They're real people. They need to surround themselves with coaches or people who are going to lift them up. What I want to say is, I implore you today, is make a commitment to your own personal health and routine, because physically you'll feel better, and most importantly, mentally you feel better. Most of my workouts these days, Jarod, it's like I want to get my own mind right. I'm doing this for as much mindset as for anything. And that might be a walk. That might be I'm going to get after it and crush a high-intensity interval training workout or a DEKA Fit type challenge, whatever that may be. But folks, let's not forget, foundational work, movement, and exercise is imperative if you want to be in the game of life. You can't sit on the side and not move and expect that you're mentally going to be strong. You will not be mentally strong if you do not have a regular exercise routine. And, because I always talk about dream big, sign up for something that scares you. Oh, I can't do that DEKA Fit thing. Guess what? Sign up and you'll find out real quick that you can. Or the half marathon, or the marathon, or the triathlon, or the Spartan race. All of a sudden you sign up, boom, that's called commitment. When you have a commitment and you're in, you're going to be a little more scared. You got to get up and get your boots on and get out and start hiking at 5:30 in the morning, whatever. And guess what? You're like, dang, I feel good. I feel like myself again. I feel like me again. Because maybe for the last 6 months or a year, like, I just don't feel like me again. My energy's not there. Something's missing. Yeah, a lot of people are struggling right now mentally. That means we need to double down on our physical conditioning and training, which will help get the mind right. That's a big part of it. You can take every little Jedi wizard trick that I have about getting your mind right, but if you're not moving, you're not eating right, and you're not recovering, then all the other Jedi tricks that I share, it ain't gonna work. That's the beef. You gotta make sure you're doing that.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of the DEKA Series on Spartan Up Podcast. Spartan Up is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DEKA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful. Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time.